Back here on the Extra Point, I am Pat Boyle. Hard to believe that spring training has already begun and that baseball in Chicago is just around the corner. Right here in our own backyard, some of the lumber used by the Cubs and White Sox sluggers is being produced in the south suburbs. The Homewood Bat Company is barely a year old and has already found a home in the big leagues.
When we had the idea to start Homewood Bat Company, we wanted to really find a way to make the best bat possible so professionals would use it at every level of play and also have a local element. So we have a pro shop here, which I'd like to show off because we're really proud of it. It's a place where people can come in, look at a huge inventory of bats, and once they know what they want, go back to the inventory, select their product, and even get their name engraved on the bat while they wait here. So it's really a neat opportunity that most people don't have when it comes to custom professional grade bats. So one of the neatest features of our shop is that we actually have a professional batting cage where anyone from a young person to a professional can come in and hit and test the products. We have a variety of sizes, styles of bats, which they can actually choose from and try and hit off the tee, or at times we'll actually throw to each other. And the other thing we do here is we test our products. So we'll actually have guys come in, professionals, and they'll hit and throw to each other and beat the bats up and test them for finish and for quality of the wood. The most important thing in a wood billet is how straight the grain is, especially for the finished product. But when you start with the billet, if you can see the grain runs generally straight, when you cut it down, it should also be straight. Every once in a while there's a surprise. The reason that ash has been so popular over the years is very easy to grade. You can see the slope of the grain very easily, how straight it runs, how thick each growth year is. And it's just the average weight of an ash billet is the optimum weight for making a baseball bat out of. Maple bats became very popular 12 or 15 years ago. Maple runs a little bit heavier, and it's also harder to grade. The grains are not as distinct, it's a different species and type of wood, so grading it is much harder, and there's different rules in place, including an ink dot test, which we can show in a little bit, that dictate how the pores and how the grains run. A yellow birch is like maple, where it's a diffuse porous wood. They don't have the distinct grains, so once again you're trying to find these little grain lines and make sure it's straight and free of knots. The wood we get from our wood suppliers is pre-graded to a certain extent. We only buy their top quality grade wood, but then even at that, when we get the pallet of wood, every piece of wood is different. That's one of the challenges of making wooden bats. So this lathe, as you can see, is an amazing tool. It not only cuts the bats, but it also sands them, and it happens in less than 2 minutes. So we could conceivably cut about 25 or 30 bats in an hour. And it used to be the sanding process was entirely separate, and the sanding process you could actually misshape the bats unintentionally. So the fact that the sanding is done according to the program that cuts them is a big benefit for a bat maker like us. We also save one of every one of the programs we make. So that way, if for some reason this machine would go down, we can use our old copy lathe and put that on there. And the copy lathe can put out a decent bat that's not near specific, but it can do the job. But as you can see, there's a number of different models. The model would be the shape of the bat. And then for each model, we have to program each specific length. So usually we'll have a 31-inch and 32, 32.5, right on up to about a 34.5-inch bat option for each model. But then there are some models we only have one length for, and those would be custom models for professional players who maybe come and want to add a little bit to the barrel or take a little bit of width off the handle. And so we'll end up with a model just specifically for one player based on how they described they wanted it. And as you can see, we're up to quite a few different models already. There's actually more than probably what's even hanging up on the wall there. It takes about maybe an hour to program a model, and it's quite exact. And then once it's loaded and saved in our machine, then we have it forever. So now we're in the finishing room. This is where the creativity comes out. And based on the color that folks have picked, it's pretty common in baseball still to have half one color and half another. So this bat in particular, the player ordered a black barrel. It's actually Jose Lobaton, he's a catcher professionally. And so Craig's can dip it in the black lacquer for the first coat. All it takes is a steady hand. And then after that dries, it takes a couple hours, then we'll lightly sand it. And then after we sand it, then the sticker's applied. And after the sticker's applied, then we'll do a clear coat. The clear coat will be the last coat, which will protect the sticker and also seal in any of the wood that hasn't had a coat of lacquer on it yet. The reason the lacquer is important is because it slows down the speed at which the moisture will leave the bat, or in a humid situation, how fast the bat would gain moisture. And so you want to have enough moisture in the bat that has its flex, but too much moisture will make it too heavy, and too little moisture will make it too brittle and explosive if it cracks. So the lacquer kind of seals in the right amount of moisture content that's in the bat. The slope of grain is the most important thing, even on a birch and maple bat, where you can't see the grains distinctively as an ash bat. So on a birch and maple bat, the 12-inch mark, we have to put a little dot of black ink, which we can illustrate here. And if that black dot of ink runs up and down the bat, and it becomes oblong in this way, it means that the pores and thus the energy is going to run up and down straight in this bat. If that ink dot goes sideways or at an angle of greater than 5% an angle, then that bat is to get kicked out for professional play. Because if the ball would strike the barrel, if the energy is running down here and the slope of grain is angling off, the bat's more likely to separate and break. So for maple and birch, that's extremely important. So the engraving process is the final piece, and it's where we put on the specs of the bat. So in this case, it's going to be, it's a model number 026, so it'll say Maple Pro 026, and then the length and the weight and the player's name will appear. So last year was our first year at spring training, and we had some guys who had agreed to try out the bat and use them. And so the first day I saw them taking batting practice, I felt like every time they swung our bat, it was going to explode. And I felt like every time they grabbed a different bat, it was going to last forever. And that feeling stayed with me pretty much all through spring training until the first few times you're at home and you see your bat on television, and you just, for some reason, you get a little knot in your stomach and feel like the bat may not last, even though you know it's the best piece of wood possible. We did everything we possibly could, and you feel like it's potentially the best bat that could be made. It's still a feeling you have to get over. And finally, we're at that point now we can watch a game, relax and have a good time, and hope for a big hit or a home run. So we just want to say thanks to Comcast SportsNet for coming out, and as a way to show our appreciation, we made up a bat for you. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Feel free to hit it or put it on a mantle somewhere.